Hi, I'm Robert O'Callaghan and I'm going to talk about our Pernosco Omniscient debugger. So far, Pernosco has targeted C and C++ and other statically compiled languages, but we know that lots of projects are interested in debugging higher level languages too, like JavaScript, that use an interpreter or a JIT and do much more complicated things at runtime. So we've been adding that to Pernosco, and we're ready to show you a demo of that in action. So we've made a recording of Chromium in RR and we've loaded it into Pernosco for debugging. To get started, I'll type func1 into the search box. This has always been able to search for the execution of specific C and C++ functions, but now we can search for JavaScript functions as well. So these are the two executions of func1 in the recording. You can see that we're listing their parameter values as well as their return values. So I'm going to click on the first one, and now you can see the source code. This is now that we're seeing JavaScript source code, and this is actually JavaScript that was extracted from an HTML file that was loaded by Chrome. Okay, so I close that. You can see that we're at the right point. If I mouse over the parameter values, they show the correct values. If you look over on the bottom left, you can see our call stack now has JavaScript frames on it, as well as C++ frames. And I can expand the parameters like that. If I go up a stack frame, you can see that we're now at the top level of the JavaScript execution in the global scope. And you can see the lines are executed here. Now I'm going to go back to the search box and search for a C++ function called console call. Okay. If you look at those lines, you can see that each call was passed a big object with lots of properties on it. This is actually a JavaScript object that we're rendering here. And this is showing you that we're actually integrating JavaScript and C++ debugging because this is a C++ function receiving a JavaScript object. So if I scroll down a bit and click on this line, this console call function gets called every time the JavaScript program calls console.log. And that's what's happening here. So I'll close that and click on this control flow function here. Okay, so you can see that the control flow JavaScript function was calling console.log where we clicked, and you can also see that the value of I is 1 and the parameter value here is false. We're rendering these orange annotations in the gutter here just like we do for C and C++ code. These show you that which lines were executed in this function call, and in particular we can see that this console.log line down here was not executed because param is false. If I open the local variable view, I can get my local variable values all at once, and that is just the same as it works in C and C++. If you look at the stack over here on the bottom left, you can now see that we've got C and C++ stack frames with JavaScript frames above them, and then with C++ above that. So we've got nice integration here between debugging C++ and debugging JavaScript. Okay, if we go back up to this source view and scroll down, we'll go to line 68, and if I click on that line, I will now show you all executions of that line that happened during our recording. You can see that there were 3. If I type the value v as a print expression, then we also show you the value of v each time this line was executed. I can also add a condition expression, and so I can condition it on v equals 2, and now I'm only showing you the one execution that happened when v was 2. So these features again work just the same in C and C++ and JavaScript now. If I click on the line, we are back in the source code, and again you can see that the sum value was 1 and it's executed 3 times. Okay, if I close this, then I'm going to have a look for other JavaScript files. So I type .js in here. You can see there's actually a lot of different JavaScript files that have been loaded by Chrome. These are actually JavaScript files corresponding to components of Chrome extensions. And if I scroll down, you can see that there's a few lines here. If I click on this line was actually executed at some point. This is again some internal Chrome code. I didn't even know what this extension does. Right, so I want to point out that this is a stock Chrome build. We didn't modify Chrome or any of the V8 source code. We do currently only support the V8 interpreter, but we could probably support code that uses the baseline compiler without too much trouble, I think. Again, we are still using RR to record and replay the whole Linux application. Just the same as we were before. That recording side hasn't changed at all, but we're now providing omniscient debugging of those recordings at the JavaScript level as well as the C++ and C and native code levels. So we can now debug, therefore, Node applications or Electron applications, and of course we can debug Chrome itself, and especially if you're interested in the interactions between JavaScript and native code. And of course, obviously, I think these principles will let us expand our support to other languages. So if you have debugging problems in any of these areas, please get in touch, and good night.